Were you the kind of kid who has so many questions you drove everyone crazy? Hi, I'm Ai Wen, and I love asking questions because there's just so much to learn from all kinds of people. What will I ask and learn today? Let's find out. Hi, Will.
Good morning, Ai. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. If you are listening to our audience, if you're listening from Will's channels and Twitter and all that, you would see a avatar of me for the cover, and that's because uh I don't want my face out there, and
So
just
you have
so
a nice anime avatar to depict your character.
right, and that's just the image. That's my self-image in my mind. It has nothing to do with how I look. I'm not that cute. um, and so, and that brings up the why don't I want my face out there? Because I want my privacy. And when we talk about privacy, I'm thinking that um, most people do how do I say that, online stuff,
Sure, online
um,
activity.
mostly, right? So I think we should start with VPN as far as protecting your privacy for beginners, I guess. Um, what do you think about that? I mean,
Yeah.
should we?
So a VPN is like when you're on the internet. As soon as you turn your computer on and you begin accessing the internet, the whole internet views you through an IP number. It's just like a number with a few dots in the middle, and that becomes your address. And based on all the things that IP address accesses, you can be identified by to who you are, and also your internet provider might actually provide that identity information to whoever wants it, depending on who your internet provider is. And so what happens is, even if you have your browser in private mode, like private browsing, that only protects you from somebody at your computer looking up your browser history. It doesn't protect you at all from what the internet as a whole sees you doing. And so, what a VPN, a virtual private network, does is when you log into the internet and do something, you go through this gateway, this VPN gateway. So all your traffic goes to this server, and from then on, all of your internet activities has the IP address that this server has, and it since other people are doing the same thing, they all have that IP address also, and it mixes all these people in together into this one IP address. And on the other side, on as the greater internet as a whole, when they monitor all this activity, all it leads back to that IP address, supposedly, assuming we trust this VPN, and nobody can tell who or what organization started the web activity, so they can't
Yeah,
trace it back to you.
they might know. How do I say this? So actually, can think of it as a wormhole for data?
Yeah, wormhole, sure.
Because then, nothing, and then it's nobody else can see what's
Right.
going to and from
Yeah,
those
so
parts.
so all the activity you pull down from the net, it goes through that hole, and once it goes into that hole, no one can trace it after that. From there, it goes just
And
to your computer.
also, the data is encrypted, by the way.
Yes, it
Under,
is. I mean,
yeah.
in general,
So,
most web traffic is.
but I have to, and I don't think it includes the email, because email, unless you're hosting it yourself, whoever is you're using for your email can see it. So
That's correct. So your
yeah,
browser it browses the internet, and your email goes through email servers. So they're
right.
not necessarily the same thing.
So when you use VPN, doesn't mean you can email private information.
Well, yes and no. If you use let's say you're using like Proton Mail and you access it through a
Right, you gotta
browser,
use special thing. Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, yes.
And so I
Oh,
don't use a client on my local machine. I go through Proton Mail, and what and Proton Mail, if you have a paid account, you can actually use your own domain name. So my
right.
email is not at proton.me or whatever, like a lot of people. You can use your own domain name that's more personal if you want. And that's actually useful, because if you ever discover Proton Mail is not as secure as they say, which wouldn't surprise me, you could you could move your email account somewhere else and keep the same email address. And from the outside, no one
Oh,
would even
yeah,
know
yeah,
that you
yeah.
moved.
Oh, okay. So, what? Hmm. So, and we're talking about VPN just so that people who are not ready to do too much but want to protect their data when they're online, using the browser. You, we're asking people to start looking into VPN, but
Yes.
we know there's problems with VPN.
Yeah,
So
so let's say there's a evil agency from an evil government that wants to monitor everyone's activity, especially the ones who are trying to be secret. And so they set up a company that looks like a privacy company, and they host their own VPN and pay YouTube personalities, lots of money to promote their VPN. And so here are millions of people using a VPN for privacy, when really the VPN is run by the very people you're trying to protect your data from. So that brings us to, all right, who can we trust?
right. So first of all, when you choose VPN company, you might want to think about who actually own them. I don't know how
Yes.
easy it is to find it, but I generally I when I discovered VPN, I was really happy. So I used one of the big ones. And then I
Okay.
figured out, I think they were bought out or something. And I figured out who bought them. And I'm like, oh my God. And and so I stopped it, and I happened to just start with my Linux learning.
And
And
so who are you using as a VP for a VPN now?
I well, at first how do I say this? So the first thing I did was learn Linux and self-hosted
Oh, so
on
you
a
created your own VPN.
right on a VPS private virtual
Yeah,
private server. So
yeah.
that
So
means
for
you're
for
renting
people who don't know
something.
what that means, there are places where, like DigitalOcean, where you can go online and rent a server that has nothing on it except for an operating system, and you could put email on it, you could put a website on it, you could put a VPN on it, and so you rented your own server, put your own VPN on it, and that's what you used.
Right. So for the reason why I just went ahead and did it, just there's a way. It's kind of a way for me to learn Linux anyway. I didn't have any machine to play with on my that I own, so I couldn't do it on my own computer. And the good thing about VPS is if you make a mistake, you just start over.
You just wipe the whole computer and do it
Yeah,
again.
yeah, and it won't hurt anything. um and the reason why I started hosting my own stuff is because I have email, and I have my own website, and and that comes with email, and my um the hosting company was so horrible because they did not protect me from attack, but I wasn't hacked, but it was like just they just sent all tons and tons of traffic, and the provider, my hosting company was saying that, oh, your site is too busy, you need to give us more money and increase the bandwidth. And I'm kind of like,
Wow.
no way, I'm my little tiny nobody knows the website. You're
Yeah,
kidding
so
me.
it sounds like someone did a DDoS, a distributed denial of service attack, and
Right.
gave your website lots of traffic. Interesting.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they didn't do it, but the
Somebody did.
hosting company didn't do it, but somebody did it, and I was
Hmm.
like, and it's probably because I think I put because I put how to switch Chromebook to Linux on that site. So anyway, so I moved everything, and so at first I had my own only VPN, and I did ask if it's secure, and I think somebody answered me that unless somebody's actually at where their servers are,
Physically
and
there.
yeah, and plug things in and stuff like that, you're it's very unlikely. I'm not like a political something that would, I just want to protect my own data. I'm not out to do anything like that, like.
Yeah. So we might not be safe from like state level hacking attempts, but if we're not trying to like, start insurrections, we should be safe as long as we're not
Yeah,
high
because
value
they
targets.
don't have they don't care. They're not going to spend their time and money on people like me.
We hope.
Yes. And I just want to keep my data safe. And so there's lots of stuff you can do if you run your own Linux server. I actually ended up also put in something industrial, and pardon me if if listener don't know something called fail to ban.
Sure, I use that on my
It's
servers.
amazing. I love it. I
Yeah,
don't
me
have
too.
to do anything once I set it up.
Yeah,
And
I like fail to ban.
right, so that's why I felt safe to do VPN on my own, uh, VPS servers. And
Hmm.
so, but then I'm figuring, okay, if everything come out of that IP, because that when you get a VPS, you get the IP with that VPS. If everything I do is through that VPS, then it's still a static IP address.
Yeah, and it leads back to you. Since all
Yeah,
of the
so
traffic on that server is your traffic, it doesn't mix it with anybody's.
right. So I also had at the time had been listening to Rob Braxman, which this person we mentioned last time.
Yeah, right.
And he cares so much about privacy. He wants everybody to be able to protect their own data.
Yes, and to be clear, we're not like being paid by Rob Braxman to promote his material. We are promoting him because we like him and he seems really legitimate and honest, just to be clear on that.
Yeah, if you listen to his older episode, he explains why. Because he witnessed the result of
Wasn't he a former Microsoft engineer or something like that? I can't
I
remember.
don't think he was with Microsoft, but he
Huh.
was with big company.
Okay.
I think he's when he came out on his own, he's like in medical data
Okay.
field. He's a programmer. So, and that's why he knows
Yeah,
what the
so
industry is doing with our
it,
data.
for anyone who's never heard that name, if you go to YouTube and look up Rob Braxman, there's a plethora of his videos that are all good. So, yeah.
Yeah, so if you you know listen to some of his episode, he will explain why, because he came from the Philippines, and at the time it was kind of a totalitarian country.
Okay. And so
And
he
he
has his own VPN now.
yes, and right. So, and the interesting about that is he has so many locations you
Right. And
can pick
so
from, and many
I've
people
never
use
used his
one.
VPN, but you're
Right,
using that now.
right, and many people share the same IP, and I think it switched sometimes. I'm not sure about that, but I think
Okay.
because sometimes when I do start page search, and all of a sudden when I do the next search, it'll be like, did you change your something something? And I'm
Interesting.
like,
Okay.
huh? So I'm thinking that his VPN is very, like, he cares about our privacy.
Yeah,
Like
and I get that from him too. I feel that way
right.
also.
So he does his best, and if you yourself, when you sign up, it's the same price as everybody else, and you could download as many VPN profile as you want. That basically means the location you choose,
Okay.
and you could switch between them. It's no problem. Just I think you get to have five machine going using that service at the same time. So I really liked it because the only time I use my own is when there's an issue
So
with.
if you've got 5 machines on Rob's VPN, what's your monthly cost for that?
Oh, a year is, I think, right now, and let's say that it's June 2023. So I don't get him in trouble. It's $89 a year.
89 a year. Oh, that's fair. Yeah,
It's the
sounds good to
same
me.
as everybody else.
Okay.
Only that I trust him more
Yeah,
because
and I
he's
would
not
much rather go
becoming.
with a person. That you
Yeah.
mentioned earlier where a company got bought out by someone else, and that's a big problem where corporations build brand loyalty, and it sort of hacks the human nature to become familiar with a company as if they're a person, yet that company overnight can suddenly become owned by someone else. And it's kind of like if you had a neighbor that was your friend, and then overnight his soul left and another soul entered, and it was a completely different person,
Oh my god.
and and now expects you to trust this new person as if it was the old person. Whereas Rob Braxman is Rob Braxman. It's not a corporation that could change ownership overnight. So
Right. And so that's like I think you shared a video a while back. And it's talking about the collectivism. I'm not sure if I'm saying it right. It's saying that for the good of all, you have to sacrifice yourself. But the way human work should be, if it's good for yourself, it would be good for other people because you cannot survive without
right.
being helpful to other people as well when you're able to.
Yes, yes. I'm not sure what video you're talking about, but the logic is
Uh,
it sounds good. The
Hen-
problem with collectivism is some people will say, like in communism, they'll say, "Oh, for the good of all, you have to do exactly what we say."
yeah, so why isn't it you have to do what we say instead? It's like why is it you get to say? But anyway,
Yeah, in communism, everybody is equal except for the ones who are in charge of the communism.
it was very obvious. I don't know. I met some from there, and they're obviously from really well off position. We're at well positioned people because they have you know, I came from a little normal family, and there's no, oh, let's have a concert, an impromptu concert at home where everybody's playing some expensive instrument. I'm like, oh my god, this is scary. But anyway, and it's kind of funny because that person feels like she grew up like us, where you're free. And the other people that I met, like in graduate school, graduate students that I met that came from being a good student, so they get to come out to the state to study. They are so different. You can tell that they grab whatever they can and they won't let go.
Hmm.
So if I think people who listen to these, if you don't yet know about the difference of living in a free country and otherwise, this should be pretty obvious.
Well, I know I see when I see online, especially where I live in North Idaho, when social movements like mask wearing, for example, blew through town. More than half the people didn't ever wear a mask here. But I see some places on TV still today years later are still wearing masks. And to me
Yeah,
that's just social, um, yeah, social alignment with the herd of sheep, I guess.
yeah, and what I see in Asia, it used to be just people are wearing it just because there's so many. How do I say this? There are people, so many people on bike and bicycles, and so they would wear it to not, breathe in dust.
Oh, the road dust. Okay.
Yeah,
Well, that's legitimate.
right. And or people who are sick but has to go out, they don't want to cough on other people. But now I don't think people know why they wear masks.
So, what do you think is the current social climate for, privacy? Basically, the social sheep mentality of, oh, we don't need any privacy, we don't need to use a VPN, we can just go on the internet. Uh, do you see that there's sort of a sea change in how people feel
Well, I
about
think
their
there's
online activity?
so the good thing about the big VPN companies is because they are pushing it, so people at least know about VPN and why they should have a VPN.
Okay, makes sense.
Right. So the only thing now for people is to figure out who gets to see your traffic. Because if you use the big company VPN, you need to realize that they might see. They still can see it because they're inside the wormhole.
Right. That's a good analogy. Yeah, these big
Yeah.
companies are inside the wormhole, so you can watch these advertisements from big VPNs and be convinced that you need a VPN, but then go choose the most trusted source you can find. And so that's why we brought up Rob Braxman as being a real human rather than a corporation.
Right, and you can see he's working hard. He every week he brings up something that he thinks you should know about, how your data is being used and how you need to protect yourself.
Yeah, and
And
as you and I continue to do more episodes, he's probably going to come up more and more because he gets into switching over to Linux, switching degoogling your phones. I think you can even get a degoogled phone from him if he's still selling
oh,
those, which is a good idea.
yeah, I actually have a phone, but I did not. It's just my like super private thing. It's not hooked onto anything but Wi-Fi.
Oh, okay. So you're using a phone with no cellular connection.
Yeah, it's my mini version of tablet.
Oh, okay.
But so and the other thing we were talking about, what if big government agency comes to Brassman and says, "Oh, we want your data that from all your VPN clients," and he keeps no log. So even if they force him, he cannot give anything to them because he doesn't have them. There's
Okay,
no
so
He
that sounds
doesn't
good.
keep any
Yeah.
data. Yeah.
Yeah, I
So
know like when you set up your own server, you have the option of going into that server and make disabling the keeping of logs so that nothing gets recorded. And so that's probably what he's done.
yeah, well, he's a programmer. I don't. On the other hand, I don't know what I'm doing. I just follow instructions.
That's what I do. Every time I do anything, I just follow instructions, copy paste stuff into the command line, and boom, it's all done.
Yeah, it was super helpful, especially for people who travels a lot, and if you need to get to your bank account or something, when you're home, if you have your own VPN. I don't know how well it works with uh, how do I say that? Like Brax's VPN. If you know how bank sometimes their site wants you to be on the same IP
Yeah,
as you.
so if you're abroad and you try to access your bank account here in the States, then it's going to recognize that you're somewhere far, far away and consider it a fraud risk.
Right, because my family over in Asia, tells me that, oh, this is not working. It won't let me in because I'm not in the States. And so when I went home this time, I actually, whoever requested VPN, I gave them one of the uh, one of I would give them the profile file, and from depending on where they live. I also, because it was so cheap, the private server was so cheap. I have quite a few of them.
Okay.
So according to where they are, I would give them the VPN for that city. And so I have many to choose from. And if you can try, if you travel a lot, make sure you're when you how do I say that, use the same uh, IP address or same location. If you were to use Praxis VPN, try it before you leave. That's what I did before I leave. I make sure that I could get to it.
So did
And,
you access the Bragg's VPN
oh yeah, I
from
can use.
overseas?
Yeah,
Okay, good.
and I also noticed that because he has a server in Japan. So when I feel like, when I'm, if I were to use a location from the States, sometimes it's very slow. So I
From
switch
Asia.
it.
So if you're in Asia and you want to use a United States, it's kind of slow trying to hit a server in the US.
And if you're not doing anything that needs to be in the States, then you can switch it to
Japan.
the Japan one.
Okay.
And I think he has one in Singapore. So, and he's waiting for his hosting, or how do I say that? He's waiting for his VPS company to have more locations everywhere. So it's so helpful with $89.
Yeah, sounds good to me.
There is some other issue with VPN, and that's something that nobody can fix but the website company. How do I say that? If for sometimes when you shop at a certain online store, they won't let anybody in if you're on VPN,
Oh, okay.
and
Now, is
that's
that
not what we can fix. It's up to
so?
the company.
How about like Amazon? Will Amazon let you, or
Oh yeah,
what play?
Amazon works everywhere
Okay,
because that's the only
but
smart thing to do. I mean, why are you angry at people who are trying to buy from you?
yeah. So
You
if
know?
someone, if a company won't let you buy on their website through a VPN, it might be a good idea to find a new source to buy your stuff. Maybe.
Yeah, I ended up calling it in. I really like it. You know how you used to order by phone?
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
was really good.
I recently bought a scythe online. It's an old fashioned way of harvesting grass, hay, and grain, and they only accepted PayPal. And so I actually got in touch with him. I don't use PayPal. And so I got in touch with him when it's able to send a check. So he just basically emailed me an invoice, and I just put the invoice with a check in the mail and sent it back to him. And then when he got it and got his money, he sent me my scythe. So whatever it takes.
Yeah, and in case if you all don't know, I was in a Apple store a week ago, and they have cash drawers.
So you can
You
buy
don't
cash.
you
You can buy
you
with
don't
cash.
have to, yeah, you don't have to use your iPhone wallet or whatever.
Yeah. And the other question is, what were you doing in an Apple store?
Somebody else wants it.
Oh,
I'm just helping because there's
and
this
you enabled that?
there's you will never understand. You do not understand the complication of using things, using
Yeah,
these kind
I
of
guess I don't
tools.
understand. I
Yeah.
was on Twitter, and Elon Musk retweeted something about some privacy app. I can't remember what it was. It had to do with distributed social media being banned on Apple. And they're
Oh,
like they're like hemming and hawing. What should we do? How can we fix this? And and I just tweeted. It's like I just tweeted a picture of throwing an apple in the garbage, and I just said the answer seems so simple to me. I don't get it.
Yeah, you don't get it. It's very, I think it's very difficult for people. Uh, it's hard enough for Americans or English able people to even get into tech
Hmm.
because so much help. I mean, Linux information is everywhere if you are able to read English.
Oh, interesting. I see.
So the
So if someone doesn't consume English information, the steps
they
for
don't have the
escaping Apple,
information. Yeah,
yeah, is so much harder. That's interesting.
right. And Apple, I think it, you just have to use it wisely. And I don't think people over in Asia are how do I say this? They are, American are,
More
I
motivated to be
I
free.
would say born free,
Yeah.
and say in people in Asia, most of the bigger ones are used to having their media controlled, so they might know if there's any difference.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
they're brought up in an environment where there's less awareness that they're in a giant digital prison.
Yeah, and if they do, I think there's a lot of like why? Because I had to get a cell phone when I was over there because I live in a place there's no Wi-Fi, and so I needed it. I need to be able to do stuff online to manage stuff back here. So when I was at the store, I was like asking the guy, "Do I have?" Because it's an Android phone, and I said, "Do I have to sign into Google?" And he's like, "No." But that's not true because if
It's
you
not
want
true
any
unless
kind of app, you need to sign in and
to the Play
then
Store.
get the app down. But it's okay because I figure out that you don't have to give them your phone number.
Yeah, what you can do with a normal stock Android phone, you can enable side-loading apps and then get apps from places like F-Droid or APK Pure, and you can do that without ever signing into Google.
Yeah,
And,
but
and
it's
never and
okay because I don't do certain things on the phone. That phone is for a specific purpose, and that is already gone because all my family are on that app. There's no escape for me on that
So
app.
does your family know you're like this black sheep freedom
No,
lover?
they don't know. They don't know, and I don't.
And you don't
Uh,
tell them.
I don't know how to tell them. I don't think they would understand. I was trying to tell one of the relatives, it's like, you know, somebody was telling me, "Oh, the sixth installment of the injection is in," and I'm kind of like, "Oh my god," and I was like, I have information from actual doctors because they see things. Not that I personally know these doctors, but they see the damage afterwards. They see
Yeah,
it.
this
They
the
right.
sixth booster. Yeah,
And the reaction was, "Oh, that's uh,
yeah. I think if they've
your
already
opinion.
if they've
It's an
already done
opinion."
5 and they're ready for the sixth, I don't think there's much hope in trying to convince them of a new path in life at this
Well,
point.
yeah, and the thing is, my family is cool. It's cool because they didn't force me. So
Oh,
I
that's
figured the
that's good.
best I could do is not force them either, and you know, information. The other thing is, I have to prepare for them for something if something happens to them.
Right.
So I so my what I'm doing now is make sure I am okay. So I'm trying to get me as healthy as I can. It's sadly the thing is when I do all these stuff, I don't have time to go out for a walk.
Yeah, and taking care of our own health is a big part. I mean, we were talking before we started recording that in future episodes we might have to talk about health, self-responsible health and stuff.
Right. But I've been on this for a long time. It's just that I'm really gearing it up. But anyway, we're talking about privacy here.
Yep. Back to privacy.
so
Privacy
the
and VPNs.
Right. So we, so when you are looking for a VPN, I think you might want to check out Brexman's VPN, and it's kind of weird the way to sign up for it. You need to be in his community, which is brex.com. I think you sign in, and then you'll find a link to the store, and then you can pick what you want and pay for it. You could
Yeah,
do.
and now that you mention that, I actually have been signed into his community, and I think I signed up for one of the deals where you get I don't know if he does it like this, but he used to send you a router that he made it out of a Raspberry Pi,
I
and he would
think he
send.
was saying that they don't have the stuff to make it anymore.
Yeah, because Raspberry Pis are so hard to get now.
But I think he has. I don't remember. I think he somehow has. I For some reason I thought he has a VPN router.
Hmm. Yeah, I
I
think I watched a
don't
video
know.
of him recently talking about how it makes more sense at this point for the money that you have to spend is to get like an Intel Nuke instead of a Raspberry Pi.
Oh, yeah. So, well, and I don't understand router very well. So my best thing to do is just to get his VPN, and it was so helpful for me. The fact that there are so many locations to choose from. I think you don't get to do that
Well,
for
what a
other
router would
VPNs.
do, if you put a
No,
router on your network, then you don't need the software on any of the
right,
devices.
right.
So you have
That
once
that
that
I
router's
know.
in, yeah. So uh, that's useful at least. And routers are basically little computers that mostly run on Linux. And so even so, when you buy a router from the store and put it on your network, it's pretty much
Yeah,
like a computer Linux install. And so you
yeah.
should
I think
trust
you
whoever you
might
buy it from.
need some help if you were to set up, and they you can there's you can do message you can when you are in brex.com, you can get to support by like a chat. So it kind of so it's interesting. It's You have to learn. You kind of have to learn how to get around in there because he hosts his own. It's free to sign up to brex.com, and you can even have your own little. It's like his own social media. It is
Right,
inside.
right. And
So
is that spelled like brax.com? Is that what that is?
yeah, let me make sure. Let me make sure. Yeah, I think it is. Yeah. Oh wait, am I wrong? I'm wrong. Oh, I've been saying the wrong thing. I think it's Brex Me.
Oh yeah, it is. It's brax.me.
Brex.me.
brax.me.
Yeah. So
There it
so
is.
you sign up there, and then get, it's free, so you can go inside and just look around. And if you want to buy stuff, you have to be in that network.
Okay.
Um, and super easy. The With most VPN, I think all you as a client, as a user, you need to have an open VPN app, and then your provider can give you instructions.
Okay.
So, um, yeah. So the first thing to check is compare Brax VPN. Listen to his videos and see if you want to trust him. And if not, if you want to go with big ones, yeah, figure out who owns them and where they are actually.
Yeah, figure
Um,
out who owns them and then figure out who's going to buy them, and the answer to that is you don't know.
Yeah, so yeah, once I found Brax, I just stopped everything. I just didn't care about the other ones anymore. And so, and if you want to self-host it, you could actually, it's super easy. You can find it online. So get a
Yeah,
VPS.
yeah. If you go to YouTube and just run a search like host your own VPN or VPN on a VPS,
Yeah,
host your
right,
own virtual private network on a virtual private server,
right,
then there's lots of videos that'll walk you through that.
right. And you just follow instruction really. So if you're cheap like me, you find a cheap server. I think you can find it. I think I found it from Low End Box. I will put the link in the show notes.
Okay.
And so uh, you can find deals, and the best deal I found was like $12 a year.
Oh wow.
So just because I want to play, I only got it to so I can destroy if I want to. But it was really easy. VPN is the first thing the real thing I put in, and of course you want to make sure you do all the security stuff in there, like you know. So just how do I say this? How should I say this?
Well,
Hmm.
when you create a server online, part of the setup process is hardening the server, and that's where we
Right.
mentioned earlier, fail to ban is one step in that
And that's like
process.
industrial size stuff.
Yeah.
So you want to start with the secure shell, right? So am I saying it right?
Uh-huh. Yeah,
SSH.
SSH, yes.
Yeah. So
And
when you
so
log in, yeah. So when you log in, you won't need to, how do I say it? Machine specific? Should I say that?
yeah, well, when you first set up SSH, you set up you have there's a way to do it, and this will be in any server setup videos. It shows you how to set up your own private key so that when you log in, it can only get a login from your computer that
Right.
and so if someone's trying to log in from somewhere else, there's pretty much no way they ever can.
Right. And if you're crazy like me, you make sure you change away from the standard port.
Yeah,
So
and that's always possible too because the hackers will spam the port 22 constantly, and it's like if someone's looking for an open port, they can search for it, but if it's just all the trash mob scammers out there using automated hack techniques, they're always going to hit port 22.
right. So I suggest playing with it for a while. Make sure you learn how to set up all these. And I would definitely do fail to ban. I'm pretty sure you can also find instruction there online.
Yeah, and just so what people know what fail to ban does, basically the thing that it does is it prevents a brute force attack from someone guessing the server a million times, guessing the server password with millions of guesses per second. Basically,
Or
every time
or
an
port
incorrect
search.
password,
Yeah.
yeah. So if someone enters the wrong password, it locks it for whatever time you specify, 30 seconds. Even if it's only 30 seconds before they can try again, suddenly that makes the amount of time it would take to brute force the password, it goes from a matter of hours or days to like years or decades. So
Yeah, and I hate to say this, they will find easy target, so don't be that.
yeah.
So it's super. Once you set it up, you hardly ever notice it. But one time I was looking at it, my who cares server has like 1,000 some. Uh, uh
Login attempts.
Not that. It's even worse.
Oh, someone got in.
Blocked IP. No, no, no. It shows me how many IP I blocked.
Oh,
I think that's what I saw. I can't be
so if
sure.
someone's trying to so you have attempted logins and eventually that IP gets blocked from your server.
Yeah, and then I can see it. You can get. get the logout and get a report, and I was like, why, who?
Who are these people?
I think
And they're
there's
probably automated.
yeah, it's not personal. So so interesting. So that's like, I guess, advanced level, but I do suggest, even if you're thinking, because we will be talking about having Linux on your own computer, but if you are not comfortable, because it requires, when you get a server, you need to learn command line, and most of the time you don't really need to know it right away, because when you use it more, you'll figure out what the command is doing.
Yeah, and so most of it's copy and paste, and
Yeah.
the number of commands you have to type in, there's probably like 10 commands that will do most of everything you need to know. It's not like learning a programming language.
Right. And especially if you're a beginner and you just follow a script, just follow it exactly, no typos.
Yeah.
And then you will get stuff done. You'll be so proud of yourself. And that's how I felt when I set up my first VPN.
Yeah, and so when you
Um,
set up a VPN and you screw up somewhere, you can just wipe the whole VPN and start over. It's no big
yep.
deal.
Yep. And if you find a cheap one, you can have more than one to switch around. And there are other tricks that you need to learn. But the first thing is just to get used to Linux if you want your own server. Okay.
And that's a good way to learn too. I mean,
Yeah,
if you just want to learn stuff and not screw up your own computer, you
and
can
for like
open up
$1
a
a month, you're not, sacrificing any hardware, because if you were
yeah,
to convert a machine, then you're worried that it became unusable.
yeah, so basically it will just spin up a computer somewhere in some computer warehouse somewhere, and you'll have command line access to that computer to do whatever you want, and you can practice things on it.
Right. Just so just so you're comfortable.
Yeah, and that's how I host my websites. I don't go through a web hosting platform. I just run my own servers. I install some simple Nginx web hosting software and run my own websites.
Yeah, and I had like um yeah, I had I had to set up my own because my ex-host were so horrible to me. So I was like, I'm gonna run my own, and I have it, my website run through. I installed. Oh God, I don't even remember it.
Well, to give you an idea of the difference between going through a
Fiber
web host
panel.
and
Yeah, there you go.
if you
Yeah,
do it yourself, you like when you have a website, you want to have SSL certificate so that you have that HTTPS secure.
right.
And so this web host is going to charge you like $100 to do that. But if you're doing it yourself, like 2 minutes of command line entry will do that for you for
Yeah, and
free.
if you are like me, you like graphic interface, and I did it through CyberPanel
Uh
on
huh.
my VPS, and there's like really complete instruction out there.
Okay.
Just look for it, and what, no harm. You're not destroying anything. Just wipe it if it didn't work and start over. So so that's you know advanced stuff, I guess. Intermediate, probably. It depends on your need. I needed it, so I had once you set up CyberPanel, you get your own. You can set up WordPress, and your mail server.
Okay.
So
So it will do a mail server too.
yes,
That's neat.
it's pretty cool. So that is for people who want to try to host their own stuff,
Okay.
and definitely way cheaper than than paying somebody else who thinks who consider uh fake traffic as something you need to pay for.
Yeah, and so for people listening, thinking this sounds all too inconvenient, remember the reason we got into this mess we're in is because we let someone
Mm,
else handle all the inconvenient parts, and we were too lazy to become educated ourselves, and we just trusted shiny toys that they gave us, and we just assumed that they would somehow not betray us. We were wrong. And so if you feel like you want to use advanced electronics and internet devices, then you sort of owe it to yourself to get a little bit educated on it. Because if you, all you have to do is sacrifice the cute cat videos on YouTube, and whatever time you're putting into that, watch Linux YouTube videos instead. That's pretty much all you have to sacrifice and give up.
Well, and then if you run into trouble, and we do ask you that you do your homework first before instead of just tell me where, go look around, because the more you look around, sometimes when you only look at one source, it won't click. So if you look around and you see the same thing enough times, it'll click. And then if you run into trouble when you try to practice on a VPS and you run into trouble, I think there's lots of capable people on Will's tech channel or chat
Yeah,
group.
if you come to my tech channel, we're always good for newbie questions. It doesn't matter, because when you're brand new to it, usually what you don't know and what someone needs to tell you is what search terms are going to get me the answer. And once you start to figure out the search terms you need to get your answers, that little skill right there will then sort of, you'll be off and running on your own.
Yeah,
But
because even
sometimes you just don't know what to search for.
right, and then even if you don't do some homework, you're not gonna understand the answer.
Right. Yeah. So a lot of times when I see someone brand new asking kind of a newbie question, then what I'll give them the search term that will work for them. So let's say
Ah,
they've
that's
just installed
helpful.
Linux Mint or something, and they're like, "Well, geez, how do I install this program?" And so what I'll do is I'll just give them the search parameter. Just go to open a web browser, type in Linux Mint install whatever, and that's going to get you your answer. And once they see that, then from now on they know how to get answers for Linux Mint, for example.
Right, and then for since we're I think we're done with VPN. If you guys have any questions, just leave comments.
Yeah, so I'll have this hosted on a number of places. I'll put this on YouTube and my Telegram channel. So I'll have the Telegram chat group, the tech chat, and also on Twitter. So if you want to respond to the Twitter post, I'll try and catch those
Yeah,
questions too.
and you, I think there might be more people around to help you if you're actually on the Telegram, on Will's Telegram chat group.
Yes, the Telegram group, that we call it the tech chat, the tech channel. There's lots of experienced people there, so not just me. Lots of other people there will be happy to help help you with your questions, and very quickly you will then find yourself knowing the answer to other people's questions, because
Yeah,
you'll fairly quickly you'll realize this is not that complicated, and once you've taken a few steps down this path, you realize, hey, this is no big deal. And then when someone has a question, you're going to find, hey, I know the answer to that.
yeah. I'm a semi newbie, so you might hear answers from me. so,
But
so go ahead.
yeah, sometimes it's good to get answers from people who are also new, because if you've been in this for too long, you lose touch with what it was like to be new. So sometimes people who just now discovered how to use Linux know the answer that's going to fit other new people. And that's a good thing about a
Oh
chat group like that.
yeah, that's true. So, and the next one up would be if you're not ready to convert to Linux, the next best option is to use free and open source software.
Right. So that's a great first step. So let's say you realize, okay, I need to start getting out of the Microsoft Mac prison and I need to switch over to Linux. The biggest obstacle when you get to a new Linux install is much of the software is going to be different than what you're used to. And so what you can do is while you're on Windows or Mac, you can start using that software now, because most of that software will run on Windows and Mac. For example, the whole LibreOffice suite is your replacement for Microsoft Office, and you can install that on Windows or Mac and use the word processor, the spreadsheet program, all pretty much replacement for everything. And there's replacement image programs, video editors. Just look up whatever software you have. For example, I used to be a big Adobe fan, but then they started charging every month, and I had to escape.
I know. That's
And
why one of the reason why I converted to Linux.
yeah, it's like, well, what if I'm not doing any Adobe work for a month and they still want to be paid? And I
I
realize I'm in their
know.
prison now, right? And so
It's
if you
weird.
look up, if you take a Adobe program and you just do a search and just say Linux alternative for Photoshop or Linux alternative for Adobe Premiere, and so you're going to find lots of answers out there for that.
Yeah, so let's see. And I think there's something closer to to Windows. I think it's called Open Office. Do you know if there are
Oh, say
they run
OpenOffice and LibreOffice are essentially the same thing. I think what happened is OpenOffice was out there first, and then the development of it kind of stalled, and so someone started a fork, and so LibreOffice is just like the same thing, but it's more actively developed, and that's kind of some old news. I haven't checked on the recent um,
okay.
activity of it, but if
So
it's
it
essentially the
might
same
be
thing.
easier conversion because I
Well,
think
if you start Linux Mint or Ubuntu or whatever, it's going to have LibreOffice already on it.
right. And if
And
you just can't get used to it, you can do Open Office. And I see they even run on very old OS X. They run on 10.7.
huh.
Wow, so you can run it on really old computer.
Yeah, it's been around for a long time. I haven't used OpenOffice for a long time. I'm not sure of the difference between OpenOffice and LibreOffice.
It's different. Open Office when I tried it, it was closer to Windows.
oh, interesting. Okay.
So you might be if you are not doing anything really special, if you just do Word or Excel, maybe this would be a good option.
Okay.
So look it up, openoffice.org.
Yeah.
That
So
could be
OpenOffice.org
right.
and LibreOffice, same thing, LibreOffice.org. And
Yeah, just download
there's
and try
other
it. No, it's
and so
free.
there's a lot of other I use Kden Live for my video editing. It's just KDEN, Kden Live, and I do it works good with my video
What was
editing.
it? What
So
was it? What was it replacing? Or
Adobe Premiere, and
oh,
so
for video
yeah,
editing.
yeah, so
Okay.
the mechanics are a little different, and if you are in high end like cinematic movie making, it might be harder to use an open source Linux version. But if
I
you're
think there's
into more
option
like,
for that.
yeah, so
Paid, but open.
yes, if you're more like creating YouTube videos, then you just need to slice videos up, change the audio out, put in transitions and stuff like that. It's super easy on Kden Live.
Yeah, and if you are, uh, it doesn't matter what platform you're on. Audacity.
Audacity, yeah,
Aud-
Audacity.
there
It's
you
an
go.
audio program.
Ah, you think I do better? But yeah, just for audio editing.
Yeah, and Audacity is great, and that replaces Adobe. What's the Adobe Sound program? It's been so long since I
I
used it, I
don't
forgot the name of
know.
it.
I don't. I've never had to use it. I
It's
only use
Adobe.
graphic ones.
Anyway, there's some sound program that Adobe has that I gave up years ago, and
Right.
now I use Audacity.
So it's easy to learn and it's free.
Yep.
The so you can run that. I think you can run that on any platform.
Yeah, you can run most of these Linux programs will also run on Windows or Mac, so you can learn the ropes there. And when you get switched over to open source software and you're sort of done just making that switch, when you move over to Linux, it's going to be sort of seamless. Everything will just work the way it worked on
Right.
Windows for you.
So you have less stuff to get used to. You just
Yeah.
you can focus on Linux. And with a lot of these, so if you're able to, or maybe help them with some donations.
Oh, right. So a lot of these open source software, no one gets paid to build them. They're just
Yeah,
done
because
by people for people. And so if you want to donate, please do.
we're talking about free and open source people. It's made with love.
Yes,
by
yes.
people who love tech and would like to do something that's good for everybody.
Yeah, and one of the most amazing open source programs out there is Blender. It's a 3D authoring software. You can do full cinematic movies right in Blender.
Oh
It's a
wow.
one of the most amazing programs out there, and it'll run on Windows and Mac, but of course it's made for Linux. And if you do any kind of 3D design or even like 2D grease pencil cartooning and stuff like that, it's great for that.
And but that is not a CAD. That's not a CAD program, right?
Not exactly. There are some CAD plugins for it that make it behave like CAD. So
So if you just want CAD program, then you look for that alternative.
yeah, and I haven't done much with CAD, but I'm not sure if you would look for a good plugin for Blender or just an open source version of CAD. But
Yeah,
I'm sure you
and
could
so
find the
the good
result.
thing about these free and open source programs is that you can download and try it. It doesn't cost you anything.
Right, and it's free. You just download
Yeah,
and do it, and you usually find lots of online videos for instruction.
yeah, play around, and if you're lazy like me, you search for answers when you get to the problem.
That's what I do. It's like, and I do so many things that I don't do any of them really well, and so I'm always um,
I don't
searching up
know.
an answer.
You seem to do well.
Well, I don't talk about the things that aren't going so well.
So, and think that if you have problem questions, ask in the group, tech check
Yeah,
group.
yeah. So if you get on Telegram, and I'll put a link to it in the description for wherever I post this. I'll put a link to the Telegram chat group.
Right. So, and next time we'll focus on Linux and maybe I think it would helpful. I still remember the trouble I was having, so I will just ask, because there's a lot of new terms that would help if you know. And I
Hmm.
think I have one extra barrier because I can't even if you say desktop in I if you how do I see this? When I learned it, I did not know the difference between desktop and whatever else. I
Oh, so it's just some of the
didn't.
English terms weren't even.
Yes, and it's actually I think I have more trouble because when you people mention desktop, I imagine the background picture.
Yeah, and that applies to a lot of technical um, instruction where you sign into some new platform, and you go to the instruction that's supposed to tell you how to use it, and these people all used language that new people would never understand. That's my biggest pet peeve about
Right.
technical
So
instruction
I think we might
documentation.
when we get into Linux, we should start there. Explain
Okay.
things, explain terms uh to the beginners,
Yeah,
and
that's a good
then
idea.
we can talk about how to convert, how what you need to know step by step, like because I did not know you have to mess with bios and stuff like that.
Yep.
So and I think we did well.
Yep. I think we did good.
Anything else for the VPN? Do we?
I think that covers it. And next time we can start diving into actually installing Linux on some old spare PC you might have lying around, and go
It's
from
so
there.
exciting.
Yeah, it is.
I switched another Chromebook from 2014, uh,
Wow.
and it was so. Now that I know what I'm doing, I my own is 2018, and because that's the only other machine I can't really destroy it. It will not be good for me. So I didn't have the nerve to open the back and take out the right protection for BIOS.
Okay.
And this time, because I was given permission to destroy it if I, it's okay. So, and it was so easy. It's so much easier. It seems the older the machine, the easier it is.
That's actually true. And the newer machine uh, can be hard depending on if the community has discovered the new, it's like exercising a demon. It doesn't want to go. And so Microsoft and Mac, of course, they don't want you to remove them. And so they try to work with the manufacturers of the hardware to make it difficult. And the Linux community is good at overcoming those difficulties. So it's always a battle. Sometimes it goes really quick and easy, and you just have to be prepared to do some research in case you run into a difficulty along the way.
Yeah, and there's also, oh, we should talk about this one next time. There's if you don't have time, or there's Linux computer out there.
Oh yeah, you can
Um,
buy Linux computers pre-installed. Yep, Dell
yeah,
sells them.
yeah, they'll sell them, and there are at least one I know that just pop pop pop.
Yeah,
I don't.
there's a company over there
Oh,
in
System
Seattle that
74.
sells them.
Yeah,
There's a
System
Seattle company.
70. Yeah, and that one is customized. You
Yeah, like
tell them
System
what you want.
76. Is that who it is?
No, they're different. System
Okay.
76 just sells straight up Linux computers.
Okay.
And the one that you talk about, I don't remember their name, but they customize your machine. Tell them what
Okay.
you want, right? And they set it up for you.
Okay.
So
So
that
that's
would
always an
work
option.
good. Yeah.
If you've got
So,
money
but
and no time, you can get it done that way.
we do recommend, you know, for fun, for practice, for necessity, do it on one of the, closet laptop.
Yeah, start with an old computer so you don't have to worry about destroying it. And that way you can, whatever your main driver computer is, you can leave that intact and practice your Linux adventures on an old machine is the way to go.
That's what I did, and it was great.
And
So,
so, yeah, that's how I started. And eventually you have no more need for your Windows machine. And it's now collecting dust somewhere.
wait, Windows machine, you convert.
Yeah, well,
Convert and give it away.
yeah, next time I need one, it will. But I still have lots of laptops, and I have a few old Windows machines sitting around. If I ever run across a program where I needed a Windows install to make it run, it hasn't happened for a long
Oh,
time, but I do have a Windows machine sitting around.
yeah, and I do know some people who just convert and give away. And
Yeah,
that's actually, I that's what I did when I was back in Asia. I got a very old computer, and there's actually a place where you can donate to, and they have actually tech camp for disadvantaged uh, children,
okay.
and far away from the city. So I did something sneaky. I installed Zorin Linux
And
on
gave
it
it to them.
before I gave it away. And when they would open it up, I actually had a sticky with a password in it, so they could, just so to remind the teachers that please make sure to teach this.
Yeah, and so recently we put Linux on a community member's computers, and then they donated a Mac. Said, here, you can give this to somebody. And I said, well, I would hate to give it to somebody with the Macintosh software still on it. That would be like handing out free drugs or something, and they might get addicted. And so we put Linux Mint on it, and then gave it away, and then now that person is on Linux Mint now.
Yes, and I like Zorin because it's simpler to look at. But if you're like Microsoft, uh, if you're used to Microsoft, then I go with Mint. If you're used to Mac, then I go with Zorin.
Zorin, okay. I
Uh,
haven't used Zorin, but I've heard about it.
it's pretty stable actually.
Hmm, okay.
The only thing I had problem with is sound doesn't work. I had to fix it on my Chromebook, but
Okay, so
it
you
worked.
had to
Yeah,
find a driver for your sound card.
yeah. I had to search for answers online, and so
Okay.
but The older one didn't have any problem. The 2014 one didn't have any problem.
And I haven't done MacBooks, but aren't they generally a little more difficult than most Windows
Well,
computers?
not the 2012 one I covered it.
Okay.
I basically plug it in, and as long as you know how to get to the USB
To
when
boot
at
from
boot up,
USB. Yeah.
which I think you press the Option key
Right. And so
when it powers up, and you
the
get to
the
USB,
basic
and you're done.
yeah, the basic two steps you do when you get into, we'll probably go into this more next week, is first you access the BIOS and disable secure boot, and then you access the boot menu and boot from a USB that you've plugged in. So that's basically the
Yeah, and
two
with
steps.
Chromebook, there's one extra thing you have to rewrite the firmware.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So if I happen to pick the hardest one when I first tried, it was so painful.
Yeah, when I first got into Linux, I was doing Ubuntu, and it was 15 years ago, and there was a lot less information online, and so
Yeah, and it
it was
wasn't as
harder.
pretty and easy to use either.
Yeah, it's getting better now, but back then it wasn't.
Yeah, you can hardly tell the difference when I showed it to the people who I install for. You know, they don't use anything fancy. They just do everything everyday stuff.
Hmm.
And they can't hardly, if I didn't tell them, they wouldn't know, you
Yeah,
know?
Mint is like that.
Yeah. So I think we're too excited about this. We kept talking about it, even though it should
Yeah,
be on the next show.
yeah. So we'll go into detail on this next week on jumping, making the leap and jumping into the deep end and getting into Linux.
It's not deep.
Oh, yeah,
It's
you're right.
small
It
steps,
looks
not
deep.
deep.
It looks deep from the outside, but then when you jump in and your feet hit the bottom, you realize, oh, it's not so bad.
Okay. Well, talk soon.
Okay, take care. Thanks.
Thank you for listening. Until next time, let's ask and learn.